On January 30th, 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany. Following this appointment, Hitler moved quickly to consolidate power. Within months, he transformed the Democratic Weimar Republic into a one-party dictatorship under the control of the Nazi Party. The title of Führer was bestowed upon him, signifying that Hitler now held absolute control over Germany. From the beginning of their rule, the Nazis also began systematically implementing racist and anti-Jewish ideology. Various discriminatory laws were enacted to isolate German Jewish citizens, including the Nuremberg Laws of 1935, which revoked citizenship and civil rights from Jews. Anti-Jewish violence reached its peak during the Kristallnacht events on November 9, 1938, when more than 250 synagogues were burned and at least 91 Jews were killed across Germany. Thousands of Jewish-owned shops and homes were looted or destroyed, and around 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and subsequently sent to concentration camps. This series of events confirmed the Nazi regime's intent to eliminate Jews from Germany, a policy that would later culminate in the Holocaust several years afterward. On September 1, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, triggering the start of World War II in Europe. This lightning attack was followed by declarations of war by Great Britain and France against Germany, marking the expansion of the conflict. During the occupation of Poland, German troops and Nazi apparatus immediately unleashed terror. The Nazis formed special units called Einsatzgruppen that operated behind the front lines of regular troops. These mobile units were tasked with hunting down and executing elements deemed ideological or racial enemies. During the invasion of Poland, the Einsatzgruppen targeted the Polish elite, local leaders, resistance members, and Jewish residents, many of whom were killed on the spot without trial. This brutal policy was part of the Nazis' effort to destroy Poland's national identity and pave the way for Lebensraum for the German people. On June 22, 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive surprise invasion of the Soviet Union, which had previously been allied with Germany. Immediately after the assault began, the Einsatzgruppen were redeployed, this time on a larger scale, in the occupied Soviet territories. They followed behind the Wehrmacht troops and carried out mass killings of civilians, particularly Jewish, Romani, Communist, and Soviet official communities. During the invasion phase of 1941 to 1942, what became known as the Holocaust by bullets occurred, the Holocaust through executions by gunfire. It is estimated that more than 1.5 million people, mostly Jews, were shot dead by the Einsatzgruppen and buried in mass graves in Soviet territories. These Nazi crimes against humanity were planned and organized by many perpetrators, from top leaders like Hitler and Himmler to field executors in the killing units. One of the executioners most responsible for the mass killings in the field was Paul Wilhelm Hermann Blobel, an SS officer who led murder operations on the Eastern Front. Paul Wilhelm Hermann Blobel was born on August 13, 1894, in Potsdam, the German Empire. At that time, the Great Depression of 1929 also struck the German economy and caused Blobel to lose his job in 1931. Amid this crisis, Blobel turned to radical politics. He joined the Nazi Party in October 1931, and shortly afterward was accepted as a member of the Schutzstaffel. Blobel's loyalty and militancy led to a rapid rise in his career within the SS. He was active in the Nazi security service and received successive promotions, eventually reaching the rank of SS Standartenführer in January 1941, just before the outbreak of war against the Soviet Union. When Germany prepared to invade the Soviet Union in mid-1941, Blobel was appointed to lead Sonderkommando 4A, a subunit of Einsatzgruppe C operating in the Ukraine region. Blobel's mission was clear: to cleanse the area of people considered racial or political enemies of the Third Reich. Following the Wehrmacht's trail, the unit under Blobel's command immediately carried out a series of massacres in various cities and villages in Ukraine, newly occupied by the Nazis. One of the most infamous atrocities led by Blobel was the Babi Yar tragedy in the city of Kyiv. After Germany successfully occupied Kiev in September 1941, Blobel, along with Sonderkommando 4A and several other supporting units, gathered the city's Jewish residents near a ravine called Babi Yar. On September 29th to 30th, 1941, in just 2 days, Blobel's forces shot dead more than 33,000 Jews, men, women, children, at the edge of the Babi Yar ravine and buried their bodies in it. The Babi Yar massacre became a symbol of the cruelty of the Holocaust by bullets, given the enormous scale of victims in such a short time. And it did not stop there. Several months later, Blobel again led a similar genocidal action in the city of Kharkiv. In December 1941, Sonderkommando 4A carried out a mass execution in Kharkiv that killed around 21,685 Jews in a single operation. This series of massacres from Kiev to Kharkiv illustrates Blobel's bloody trail during the first year of Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union. However, in early 1942, his frontline career suddenly came to a halt. Due to health reasons, primarily caused by alcoholism and mental strain from his killing duties, Blobel was officially relieved of his field command position on January 13, 1942. He was withdrawn from the Eastern Front and briefly treated to recover his physical condition. In mid-1942, after his condition improved, Paul Blobel was secretly appointed to lead Operation 1005. This ultra-secret operation, ordered by the Reich Main Security Office, aimed to erase all traces of Nazi mass killings in the occupied territories of Eastern Europe. In other words, Blobel was tasked with eliminating evidence of the Holocaust crimes that had already occurred, so that the Allies could not later find silent witnesses or data on the number of victims. From July 1942 to 1944, Blobel led special teams that moved from one location to another, exhuming mass graves of Nazi massacre victims, then burning the bodies completely to erase the traces. However, entering the latter half of the war, Nazi Germany was on the brink of defeat. The Soviet Red Army continued to advance from the east, while the Western Allies landed in Normandy in June 1944 and began liberating Europe from the west. During this critical phase, Paul Blobel was reassigned to regular combat duties. In late 1944, he was appointed to lead a combat unit in the Balkans to fight Yugoslav partisan guerrillas. However, these last Nazi defense efforts were futile. The military situation had completely reversed. City after city in Europe was captured by the Allies, and Nazi Germany collapsed after Berlin fell, and Hitler committed suicide in April 1945. Finally, in early May 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally to the Allies, marking the end of World War II in Europe. Paul Blobel tried to avoid capture by hiding, but his efforts were in vain. He was captured by Allied forces in German territory in May 1945, shortly after his country surrendered. At the Einsatzgruppen trial in Nuremberg in 1948, Paul Blobel stood in the courtroom listening as the presiding judge announced the death sentence by hanging. This trial was one of a dozen subsequent Nuremberg military tribunals held by the Allies to prosecute Nazi war criminals. Blobel was charged with war crimes and crimes against humanity, along with several other Einsatzgruppen commanders. During the trial, it was revealed that around 59,000 murders could be attributed to operations led by Blobel, although he himself claimed to have only killed about 10,000 to 15,000 people. In April 1948, the panel of judges declared Blobel guilty and imposed the death sentence. Blobel spent several years awaiting execution in Landsberg prison. Finally, on June 7, 1951, Paul Blobel was executed by hanging in that prison, atoning with his own life for the extraordinary crimes he had committed.